The cold metal of the handcuff touched James Obi's wrist. He didn't move, stood there, both palms flat on the marble counter, rain jacket still damp from outside, while a police officer prepared to arrest him in the lobby of his own building. Have you ever been threatened with arrest by someone who had no idea who you were? Not just who you were, but that you owned everything they were standing on? That's exactly what happened here. But to understand how we got to this moment, we have to go back 22 minutes. To the second James Obi walked through his own front doors, and a security guard named Val Hutchins made the worst decision of her career. Hey, you see this guy? Val didn't bother lowering her voice. Watch him. She said it to Troy. Loud enough for the people nearest the desk to hear. Loud enough for James standing 6 feet away, still in his rain jacket, still reaching for a badge that wasn't there to hear every word. He heard it. He didn't react, just walked to the desk, both hands visible. The way you learn to do after a lifetime of walking into rooms where someone has already decided you don't belong. Morning, he said. I forgot my badge today. I need someone to call up to the 16th floor. My assistant can verify me in under a minute. Val looked at him the way you look at something you've already categorized. Name, she said. James Obi, Troy typed. Slowly. His eyes moved across the screen, stopped, and he leaned toward Val without looking up. Probably fake, he murmured, not quietly enough. James heard that too. Val crossed her arms. Her voice rose just enough, performing now, for the small audience already forming near the elevator bank. Sir, this is a private building. People like you don't just walk in here and claim they own the place. People like you. 3 words, hanging in the lobby air like smoke. James looked at her steadily. Call the 16th floor. Ask for Sandra Ease. Val smiled. The kind of smile that has nothing warm in it. I'm not calling anyone for you. She turned to Troy casual, like James wasn't standing right there. They always have a name ready, don't they? Troy huffed a laugh, reached for his personal phone, angled it toward James without being obvious about it. The shutter sound was barely audible. He typed something fast, sent it. In the security team's group chat, 12 people, a photo of James arrived with a caption. Lol, this guy says he owns the building. Within 90 seconds, the replies were stacking up. Sure he does. Classic, should we call the ambulance? James didn't know about the chat. Not yet. What he knew was this. 19 years ago, he had started this company, with a folding table and a lease on a 400-square-foot office in Charlotte. The building he was standing in right now had his name on the deed. His signature was on the security firm's contract. His face was on the homepage of the company website, center of the page, under the words, Our Founder. 3 weeks ago, he had switched security contractors. New firm, new team. He'd heard from Sandra that the executive recognition training hadn't been completed yet. Page 4, Section 2 of the contract mandatory within the first 7 days. So he'd come in without his badge this morning, on purpose, to see for himself. He just hadn't expected this. Near the elevator, a project manager named Chris slowed down. 6 years with the company. He looked at James. Recognition moved across his face like a shadow. He looked at the security desk, looked at Val, looked back at James. Then he looked at the floor and kept walking. James watched him go, said nothing, filed it somewhere deep and quiet. Troy stepped out from behind the desk, planted himself between James and the elevator bank. Sir. His voice had a new edge now, backed up by something. I'm going to need you to step outside right now. I'm not going anywhere, James said. Sir, I've asked twice for a phone call to the 16th floor. That's all I'm asking. 1 phone call. Troy moved closer. Close enough that James could see the decision forming in his face, the calculation of a man who had decided the situation needed to be resolved physically before it got complicated. He put his hand on James's shoulder. Not hard, but deliberate. A push toward the door, clear enough for everyone watching to understand exactly what it was. The woman near the elevator made a sound. Someone else pulled out their phone. James looked down at Troy's hand on his shoulder. Then he looked up, straight into Troy's eyes. Didn't say a word. Something in that look made Troy pull his hand back. He didn't step away, but the hand came back. Val was already at the desk phone. Yeah, her voice was businesslike now. This is Obi and Associates lobby security. We have a trespasser refusing to leave. Need a unit at the main entrance, she said it loud. Every word aimed at James like a dart. Then she set the phone down and looked at Troy with a small, satisfied smile. Won't be long now, she said. Troy smiled back. Officer Daniels came through the glass doors 4 minutes later, partner behind him. Both scanning the lobby the way cops do, reading the room, before anyone says a word. Val moved toward them immediately. That's him, pointing at James. Walked in without ID, refused to leave, got physical with my colleague. Got physical. James hadn't touched a single person. Daniels looked at James. Sir. Hands on the counter. James placed both palms flat on the marble, his own counter. Approved from a materials catalog in an architect's office 4 years ago. Can I ask what I've done wrong, officer? We'll sort that out. Don't move. Daniels unclipped his handcuffs. The lobby went completely still, the kind of still where you can hear the air conditioning. The woman who'd been recording tightened her grip on her phone. Her hands were shaking slightly. Val stood back, arms crossed. The posture of someone watching something go exactly the way they planned. Troy was looking at his phone. The group chat was still going. Oh, it's getting good now, Lemao. The cold metal of the handcuff touched James Obie's wrist, and the elevator chimed. Sandra Ease crossed the lobby without hurrying. She never hurried. In 9 years, James had never once seen her hurry. She moved with the particular calm of someone who had already solved every problem in the room and was simply arriving to confirm it. She saw the handcuff on James's wrist. Her expression didn't change. She walked directly to Daniels, placed a folder on the counter. Officer. Quiet. Precise. The man you're handcuffing is James Obie. He is the founder and CEO of this company. He owns this building. I have the deed, the title registration, and his official company ID, right here. Daniels looked at the folder. Looked at James. Something shifted in his face. Sandra turned to the next page without pausing. This is the security firm's contract. She tapped the signature at the bottom. Signed by Mr. Obie. Page 4, Section 2. All personnel must complete executive recognition training within the first 7 days of contract commencement. Your team has been here 23 days. Has that training happened? She looked at Val, held the gaze. Val opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That's why they don't know who he is, Sandra said simply. Like reading a weather report. That's the only reason. Daniels looked at the handcuff, looked at James. He uncuffed him. James straightened, rolled his wrist once, slow. The only sign in the entire 22 minutes that any of this had cost him anything at all. He didn't speak for a moment. He looked at the security camera in the corner of the ceiling, red light blinking steadily, recording everything. Had been recording everything from the beginning. Sandra, pull the group chat. Val's head snapped up. Sandra was already on her iPad. She found it in 40 seconds. Opened it. Set the iPad on the counter screen facing out, toward the desk, toward Troy and Val, toward the small crowd that had gathered without fully meaning to. The photo of James, the caption, the emoji, the replies. Should we call the ambulance? The lobby read it in silence. James looked at Troy. You took that photo 6 minutes after I walked in. Troy's mouth opened, closed. You sent it to 12 people on the security team. James's voice was level. No theater. No performance. Just a man stating facts. While I was standing at this desk asking for a phone call, he turned to Val. You called me, honey. He let that sit for exactly 1 second, in front of 40 people. Val straightened. Something in her face tried to reassemble itself into dignity. Sir, I was don't, James said. One word. Soft as a door closing. She stopped. Ray Tolbert, operations manager of the security firm, the man whose signature was on the other side of that contract, appeared from the side entrance. He was pale, moving toward James with the desperate energy of a man trying to get in front of a car he can already see coming. Mr. Obie. His voice was stripped of everything it had. I take full responsibility for the training failure. That is completely on my firm. And I want you to know I know, James said. It's in the contract. Ray swallowed. These are good people. They have families. If you could consider, so do the people they humiliate. No follow-up, no elaboration. Just that one sentence placed into the silence, like something being entered into a permanent record. Ray closed his mouth. James looked at Sandra. 2 names. She was already typing. Troy Briggs, Val Hutchins. The badge reader on the staff door flashed red 30 seconds later. Troy reached for it out of reflex, and his hand stopped an inch from the panel. He stared at it. His badge was dead. Val looked at her desk. Her computer screen had locked itself. The little padlock icon sat slits in the corner of the screen, small and final. She stared at it the way you stare at something you can't quite make real yet. James looked at Becca Lim. She'd been standing in the same spot for 22 minutes. Still quiet, her hands at her sides. You stayed out of it, James said. I saw that. It's noted. Becca nodded. Tights. Tight, her jaw working. He walked to the elevator. Sandra followed. The doors opened. They stepped in. As the doors closed, the last thing visible was Ray Tolbert standing at the security desk, staring at the iPad screen still open on the counter. The group chat, the photo, the emoji, his firm's name on the contract beneath it. The board meeting happened. At the end, James said one thing about the morning, not the full story. Just this. Complete onboarding for the new security team, all of it. End of this week. I'll be checking personally, that was all. By lunch the building knew, all 5 floors, all 380 people. No announcement, no email. Just the way things move through people who work in close quarters, fast, quiet, unstoppable. What stayed with people wasn't the handcuffs, wasn't the firings, it was the image. James Obey standing at his own security desk, rain jacket. Both palms flat on the marble, still and quiet while a police officer uncuffed him, and a woman who had called him honey 20 minutes earlier stood 3 feet away, unable to say a single word. That image moved through the building like a current. Chris, the project manager who had walked past without speaking, sat at his desk and stared at his screen for the rest of the afternoon. He thought about the moment he'd made eye contact with James and looked away. The choice that had taken less than a second. The kind of choice you don't think of as a choice until later, when it's too late to make a different one. He didn't sleep well that night. Becca Lim was moved to the 16th floor detail the following week. 3 months later, her supervisor slid a piece of paper across the desk during her review. A note in her file. Did not escalate. Forwarded group chat to evidence to HR before it could be deleted. Did the right thing when it was easier not to. Recommended for advancement. She read it standing in the break room. Stood there a while, thinking about all the things she hadn't done that morning, and understanding, for the first time, that sometimes the most important thing you do is the thing you choose not to. That was the story. But before you go, I need to ask you something. You just watched all of it. You saw Troy put his hand on James's shoulder. You saw Val call the police. You saw handcuffs touch the wrist of the man who owned every inch of that building. And you were angry. I know you were, because I was too. But there's one person in this story I can't stop thinking about. Chris. He recognized James, looked him straight in the eye, and then looked down at the floor and kept walking. Not because he was a bad person, not because he agreed with what Val and Troy were doing, but because he was scared, scared of trouble, scared of being the only one standing up in a room where nobody else was. And the question I want to ask you, it's not about Val. It's not about Troy. It's about Chris. If that had been you walking through that lobby that morning, what would you have stopped? Would you have said something? Or would you have looked at the floor and kept moving and carried that moment home with you, lying awake with it at midnight? Nobody answers that question easily. I don't either. But here's what I know for certain. Becca didn't do anything dramatic. She didn't confront anyone. She didn't make a speech. She simply refused to make things worse. And then quietly, when no one was watching, she forwarded that group chat to HR before anyone could delete it. One small action. Nobody asked her to. Nobody knew she did it. But it changed everything. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just means not looking at the floor and walking away. If this story stayed with you, share it. Not because James Obey needs anyone to defend him, but because out there right now, there are people standing in their own lobbies. No Centra, no camera, no clean ending like this one. And they need to know someone sees them.